Greetings, this is Dr. David Roots, David Roots TV. 5 things society says we must do that make no sense. And you see my icon, it says stop. We've been scammed. So who's scamming us? Why are they scamming us? We're going to talk about it in this video. And I might lose some friends from this video. I might gain some new friends. Okay? But all I ask you to do is consider the things I'm talking about with a critical, analytical perspective. Use your mind's eye to think beyond just the surface concepts that are given to us by society en masse. Because if you think about it, many of the things that we do in society, why do we do them? A lot of times we do them out of inexperience, and so we see people doing things, and we see things in the media, especially in the modern world, where our lives are heavily influenced by the media, multimedia, multi-mass media, TV, radio. Now we have social media, cinema. All of these things influence us. And our societies, the way our society operates, as well as the government, we need to put the governments in, the way our society operates, much of the things that we do we actually critically analyze why we are doing those things and where those things come from? This is not an exhaustive list. This is just 5 things that came to me, and they're actually quite minor things, but I wanted us to think about why we do the things we do, because then that's going to expand to other aspects of our life. So let's not long the video out. Let me move on to the 5 things society says we must do, okay, that actually make no sense. And all I would ask for you to do is just take a minute, just think about it, okay, and share and like the video if you think it's useful. So number 1 on the list, veganism. Notice I put the ism. Okay, this is not an attack on people who are vegans or who support the vegan lifestyle. A vegan, let's define it, is a person who refrains from the consumption of animal products. And even within that, there's a lot of disparity, of course, because when I was a vegan, I never stopped eating honey, whereas some people will not eat honey, as vegans. So, but generally, we all tend to know what a vegan is. People that refrain from animal products, primarily meats, eggs, dairy, anything that comes from an animal, vegans try not to eat, okay? So this is not an attack on veganism per se, because as someone, and I'm speaking on this topic as from an informed position, because when I was in my 20s for a long period of time, I was a vegan for many years. My children were raised as vegans. My first 2 children were raised as vegans. And for me, who's been in that lifestyle and then come out of that lifestyle and going back into that lifestyle, so on and so on. Currently, I would call myself primarily plant-based, although I choose to eat fish from time to time. I'm speaking from an informed perspective, so this is not an attack on anyone who's a vegan. There's obvious health benefits to being more plant-based, particularly as vegans seek to remove meat from their diets. And the research will show clearly, not only the academic research, but as well as the ethnographic, geographical, cultural research on those places where people live the longest. They primarily eat a majority plant-based diet. You also have the environmental aspects of veganism. The less meat we eat, the better it is for the environment, particularly for the impacts it might have on deforestation, as people try to raise cattle en masse. Places like Australia, the South America and the Amazon rainforest. Not eating meat has so many benefits for the environment. And of course, you have the compassionate aspect as well. When you choose not to eat meat, that means less meat will be grown in some of the horrendous conditions. When you have, factory raised chickens and factory raised meats, and not just chicken, but you have cows and pigs who can be raised in quite squalid and inhumane conditions. When you think that these are living species, that veganism has a lot, or being a vegan, not veganism, has a lot of positives. So this is not an attack. But when you really look and examine the roots of this trend and this whole thing we're calling veganism in the modern world, in the modern sense, you have to take a pause, because you realize certain things. Now, I'm a fan. I like these sort of survival shows. So one of the ones, and this isn't a plug for it, but what's it called? Naked and Afraid. So you have these challenges where people go out and they're put in a natural environment and they have to survive for a set amount of time. In Naked and Afraid, it's normally 21 days, which is 3 weeks. And they're taken various places. Some are taken in, more colder climates. Some are put in more tropical climates. I personally would love to go into a tropical climate and do it. So some are put on islands, or they could be put in the swamps, and so on and so on. And you watch these people try over the period of time to survive. And one of the things that you will note is that it is very, 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 very difficult to survive in nature with no modern conveniences on a strictly 100% plant-based diet. The reason that we can promote the idea of so-called veganism today is because of the modern conveniences that we have, including air travel, that afford the production and the consumption of products year-round for us. Okay, so as a vegan, a lot of vegans, they will try to be as plant-based as possible. So they're going to try to eat, the salads and have a wide variety. But you always have that protein question, and very informed vegans will tell you, yes, you can get protein as a vegan. Of course, you can eat your nuts and your seeds, and you can eat your lentils and beans and so on and so on. But all of those things, the reality is, in this world are only afforded on us because of the modern conveniences of life. When you get lentils, I live in London, for example, we're not growing lentils in London. Okay, we're not growing beans in London. We're not growing almonds in London. We're not growing, we can maybe grow a few, no, not even that, it's too cold, not naturally. You're not going to grow peanuts. All of the different things, especially the protein-based aspects that you may need to support that lifestyle, have to come from somewhere else. And the reason why is because the reason why it's available is because of the modern technology. Now, this is why some places that, like India, like China, have a longer history of what we today would label vegan, plant-based societies. Okay, so for example, in India, you have the Hindus who can consume dairy, but they won't consume any other meats. Okay, you have the Buddhist monks in China who are strictly 100% plant-based, although there are some, exceptions to that rule if they need to be fed and so on and so on. So because of the climate and because of the society that they live in, they would have been able to potentially live without the need to import, all of the types of products that you will see today. Okay, but when you watch those reality shows, or if you yourself have been attempted to live in off the grid as much as natural as possible, you realize very quickly as the archaeologists have, that in order to live as a human being in society, in this world, in a natural environment, most likely you are going to have to consume an animal product. And the most ancient and civilizations that had a deep connection that we look to, like the First Nation people, some people call them Native Americans, the Indians of the USA, like the Amazonian tribal people, like the Aboriginal people of Australia, okay, like the ancient peoples of Japan and China. These people, like the people, the San, which is a derogatory term, Bushmen in the Kalahari, all of these ancient societies, ancient Egypts, they consumed animal products, but they still had a level of respect for the consumption of those animal products. And there wasn't an overconsumption. Today you can go to a shop and you're going to buy, a tray, a plastic package of chicken, and you're going to have about 10 chicken wings in it or 10 drumsticks. When realistically, if you were raising chickens, there's no way you're going to sacrifice 10 chickens, or if it's two legs in each chicken, 5 chickens for one night. That's what you can do in today's society. That's why people are eating and consuming so much meat, and it's very unhealthy for them because of the availability of it. Okay, but in that same note, if you want to live off grid, if you decided to try in today's world right now to go and live in a setting, if you look at some of those shows where people are living in Alaska, for example, in today's world, they're having to hunt as well as consume the fruits and vegetables that might be in that climate. If you want to go live up in the mountains, in Jamaica, or if you want to live, more natural in Africa, if you want to live in Australia, in the forests of South America, you would most likely have to supplement your life with those animal products. And the people that try, there's been a few vegans, plant-based people that have gone on these shows, like I'm talking about, like some of the survival shows, and it's been very, very, very difficult, if not impossible, for them to survive. And I'm talking about including in the tropical, when they've put in tropical settings, they're just not able to consume enough calories in order to survive, and that was only for 3 weeks. Okay, so this is not one of those things that society en masse tells us to do. But the reason I included this one is because there's this big push towards what we call veganism, which is this sort of fanatical, blinkered approach towards life that is actually making lots of people ill. If you don't have the money, the access to a balanced range of foods, as well as the intelligence and the knowledge to put in place what needs to be put in place to support a 100% plant-based lifestyle in today's world, you most likely will become ill and deficient over time. Okay, and the reality is that veganism is a rich man's and woman's concept. That's what it is. And the one thing that I hate is to hear fanatical people try to preach that, okay, because that's what it becomes. It becomes a dogma to the peoples of the world, when it's the peoples, ancient peoples of the world, that actually show us how we can live sustainably. Because it's not, that's the crux of the matter. Is it really sustainable to live that way? Particularly if you are a vegan living in New York City in a high-rise flat, working, on your 9-to-5 job. You're only able to do that because of the impact that you're having on the climate through air travel, the impact that you're having on other areas around the world where your foods are coming from, you know, the impact from veganism is not just, oh yes, the way you feel and how it's making you feel good, but what's the wider impact of it? So this is why I'm asking you to think, and think realistically. And please do not label in a negative way. So for example, for me, I would, you know, if someone asks me about my spiritual basis, I tell them I'm a Rasta. And one of the aims of Rasta is repatriation. You want to go move to, repatriate. So repatriate, you heard the patri in there, that's the father. So you want to move back to your fatherland, your motherland. In this case, we see the fatherland as Africa. We want to move back to the motherland of Africa. We want to live off of the land, right? And for Rastas are known to be plant-based, okay? But the reality is that who is living a more sustainable lifestyle? Someone that has moved, quote unquote, to this term, off grid, and they are raising, they have a few chickens where they can raise eggs, they can raise meat if necessary. They may have a goat, and they're planting their vegetables, so they're supplementing what they're planting with maybe the eggs or the goat milk. Or that person that's living in New York City or in London or wherever you want to say, in Moscow, and they're going to the shop and they're buying their soy milk and their oat milk in the packages. They're buying their tree raised nuts from who knows where that have been used, that pesticides get used on to make sure that they feed that industry, that are buying all of the soy products that are flown across the world, that are devastating some of the ecosystems. Who is living more sustainably? The people that are living a natural lifestyle where they're working in harmony with nature, which at times, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but that's part of the cycle. I live in London, and sometimes you will see the foxes attacking the birds. That's how it goes. And then other times you'll see the bird eating the caterpillar or, whatever. That's life. That's the cycle of life. So, again, this is not an attack on people that are vegan, but this is a call to make us think about what society often says is right for us and why we choose to do certain things, but in the reality, who's actually told us that those things are right and better. Okay, I could go on and on just with this first topic, but I don't want to make the video too long, so I'm going to leave this one at that. Okay, so that was number one, veganism. Okay, soap. Here we go. Let's see if I get, lots of nasty comments on this one or lose friends or so on and so on. But I'm a very well-traveled person, very well-traveled. The only places I haven't traveled so far are towards the Far East. So I'm talking about India, China, Australia, Sri Lanka, Middle East. But I've been to the Caribbean, I've been to America, I've been into Europe, and I've been several places in Africa. I haven't been to South America. Okay? And one thing that you learn, because I'm into natural health and finding about natural remedies. By the way, my background is chemistry as well. I'm currently a A-level, which is advanced level chemistry teacher. So I'm looking at this from a historical point of view, as well as a manufacturing and scientific point of view. One thing you will learn when you go and you talk to native and traditional people, soap is a manufactured chemical. That's what it is. For example, I spent a lot of my time growing up. My first daughter, she was born in Jamaica. You live up in the hills. If you live up in the hills in a traditional lifestyle, do you think that somehow magically you're going to have soap just, you can just go dig up some soap? No. Soap is a manufactured chemical. Okay? When we lived in the mountains, what the elders would use and pass down to us were different herbs that you could crush and you'd use that to wash your body, and would have healing effects on your body. You'd be washing in the rivers or in the waterfalls. Okay, that's natural. Okay, of course, in Africa you have what we call African black soap, which is made from shea butter oil, okay, or the shea butter tree, the nuts, the fats from the shea butter tree, and they make a caustic. I have a video on it if you want to go and watch it. They make a caustic alkali substance, because that's what soap is. You take an oil and an alkali substance, and there you go, you get your soap. That's why much soap was made with pig fat and animal fats. Now you have a lot of soaps made with vegetable fat, but it's still just the same. It's a caustic chemical, meaning an alkali hydroxide and fats and oils. Okay, and that's where you make your soap. Okay, so in Africa they do have African black soap that has a history and a tradition, definitely, fine. But that history and tradition really just stems from West Africa. You're not going to find African black soap all around, the world. And of course, there's a history of soap making in probably other parts, particularly in Europe. But soap making goes along with animal fats. Okay, you can go and do your own research yourself. Okay, but now if you think in the modern world, and we're talking about since what, 1950s and so on, I don't know, the industrial age, because before that, especially in Europe, people didn't use soap. Okay, many people didn't even bathe, and still today there's a running joke that people don't bathe in Europe like they do in other parts of the world, because it's cold out here, isn't it? So soap is a modern thing. The fact that you go to the shops and you can buy all of these soaps, you have liquid soaps, you have bar soaps, and this soap, that soap, flavored soap, this soap, so on and so on. Okay, this is a very modern thing. Now, not on top of that, not only is it a modern thing, how useful is it to have it in the current way that soaps are designed chemically for your skin? Okay, because anyone who's made soap, and I've made soap before, if you don't get that pH balance right, you actually end up drying out your skin, okay, more than if you didn't use the soap. Okay, but society tells us, I probably have comments underneath this video, oh, he doesn't use soap. I use soap. Okay, I try to use natural soaps when I can, like Dr. Bronner's soap, things like that. But I know that if I was living a natural lifestyle, off grid, up in the mountains, or in a coastal region, I'm not going to have soap to use. You don't need soap in order to wash and be clean. That's what water does. Water has specific properties that allow your body, allow it to remove the water soluble contaminants, not even contaminants, that's not the right word, but water soluble materials from your body. For instance, when we sweat, that's where we have a lot of the dirt that goes on our body comes from, right? Well, those things are going to be water soluble, so when you use water, you can wash off your body. Okay, you can go into the sea and wash, but then you have soap, so then you have soap, so you need fresh water to wash that off. But you still can use water to wash your body. And in a natural environment, you're not going to have that chemicalized, industrialized poison, really, packaged poison, perfume poison that you see being heavily marketed to you. Who says that you must do that? It's the marketing that says you must use that on a daily basis, and it must be green, or it must be, blue color, and if it's blue or red, it's special. That's all marketing. Okay, and who tells us we must do it as we grow up? Society tells us that we must use those products. If I told someone, oh yeah, I don't use soap, they probably would laugh and call me dirty, maybe. Okay, but would they consider that there's other options, and not options, but from a natural perspective, there's other more beneficial and healthy ways that we can keep our body not just clean, but free from chemicals. Okay, so that's one for you to really think about. Maybe I'll lose some friends over this one, maybe I won't. Now there obviously is certain cases where, let's say you're doing some, in today's world where you maybe you're a mechanic. Okay, you're a mechanic, and so you're working with oils and your hands are getting oily. You most likely will have to use a product because you're using unnatural things on your hands, so you're going to need unnatural things to remove that product. It's just like nail. If you paint your nails, you're going to have to use something unnatural to remove that lacquer that you put on your nails. Of course, the more unnatural you are, the more unnatural things you need to remove those things off your body. Okay, so that's what you need to think about. I'm not saying that soap isn't useful, but I'm saying that we really need to think why we are using the things that we use and who's told us that we can use it or that we need to use it. Is it Johnson & Johnson? Is it Bayer? Is it all these companies, these pharmaceuticals that know that if that myth was ever broken, then, oh, they would be out of pocket a lot? Okay, so that was number 2. So, very controversial one. Leave your comments below. Tell me what you think. Okay, going along with the whole soap aspect, hygiene, and so on and so on. And please don't say that I'm trying to tell people not to be hygienic. You can be hygienic. Ancient peoples were very hygienic. Okay, and in fact, when you see ancient people and you look at their dental records and things like that, their dental records are often better than what we have today. Why? Because it was not the what they were brushing their teeth with. It was what they were not eating and consuming. The reason we have so much teeth problems today is because of the excess sugar. When I was younger, they used to give us fluoride tablets in school for free. They had the fluoride program and things like that. The reason they had that was because try to prevent tooth decay. And the doctors and the dentists and the scientists will tell you the problem with so much tooth decay now is not because of the habits of people with brushing the teeth. It's because of the consumption. Okay, the consumptions of not just sugars but starches in particular that get trapped in your teeth. People eating at night, not flossing, so on and so on. Now, one thing when you're in a natural environment, as I said earlier in the video, I've had the benefit of living in natural environments, across the world. People eat very fibrous things. So, for example, in Jamaica and Africa, they're going to be eating sugar cane all the time, or they'll be eating different, just different things that have, fiber and have a cleaning impact on your teeth. It's not like here in London, people eat crisps, which in America they're called chips, and all that's getting stuck in your teeth because it's refined products. When you're eating natural products, they don't really get stuck in your teeth the way that these refined products do. Okay, so people generally, one thing when you go to Africa in particular, and even in Jamaica, people's teeth just look so much more healthy, so much stronger and just whiter and so on and so on. Whereas over here, there's huge industries on toothpaste, teeth whitener, all of these sorts of products designed to try to make your teeth look a certain way. When really, it's not about what you're using on your teeth, it's about what you're eating. Now, again, let's use that model that I keep talking about. If you were to live in nature, off-grid, I don't like to use that term, but I'm using it to paint that picture. Just living a natural life. Are you going to have access to toothpaste, what you call toothpaste? Definitely not. Can you brush your teeth? Of course. What are you going to use? Well, originally, much of the toothbrushes were made from things like, horse bristle, from the hairs of a horse, things like that, or pigtail. That's what they were made from. Okay, but many of the traditional people use fiber, so like certain types of sticks, we tend to call them chew sticks, so they'll chew the end of the stick and they'll use that to clean their teeth. Okay, even the natural toothpaste is made from natural things such as calcium carbonate, aka limestone, and you just grind it in a powder and you use it. Charcoal, you can use that. How do you get charcoal? Well, you burn wood and there you go, you get charcoal. These things are much better, not only for your teeth but for your gums. Okay, so who is telling us that this is a product that we must buy on a day-to-day basis, and we must educate our children that these are the things that we use, and if you don't use it, then society is going to ridicule you. Oh, if you tell somebody, well, I don't use toothpaste, I don't use soap, society is going to look at you as if you're dirty, but they haven't considered, oh, well, what are you using? You know, they've only been trained and conditioned like Pavlov's dog. Okay, if you don't know what that is, you should go and research it, to think that these are the things that we must do. Luckily, I've raised my mind and my consciousness beyond learning to do things just because society tells me to do it. Okay, so that was number 3 on the list. Let's keep moving on. Vitamins, okay, or vitamins as they say in the UK. In particular, the synthetic ones, right? That's what we're talking about. Huge multi-billion-dollar industry across the world to consume vitamins and vitamins. Okay, we have all these people across the world, including myself at one point, who was so caught up in thinking, I need to have my vitamins, I need to have my vitamins on a daily basis. And you take these packages which have all this huge range of vitamins. Okay, vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin D, vitamin B, vitamin this and that. You're trying to take it all at once. It's a big scam. It's a complete scam. Because as the research will show you, most of that you don't even absorb or adsorb. Most of that just passes right out of your body. And in fact, some of it can be harmful to your body. And really, it's just a replication of what nature already gives us. That's all it is. It's an attempt to put in a package form something that nature already has, because those vitamins come from foods, or the idea of those vitamins come from the foods. That's what they're meant to replace, to supplement the foods that we're eating that are lacking in these vitamins, or the food that we're not eating. Okay, the problem is that they're saying now that foods, when we're growing them, plants, that the soils are lacking in nutrients, so those foods are also going to be lacking in nutrients, because that's where plants get the nutrients from the soil. They don't get them from the sun, they get them from the soil. So if the soils are deficient, if farmers are growing on this soil year in, year out for decades, then the soils are going to be deficient, and then that means the foods may be deficient. Okay, so they want us to supplement because of that. All right, that's one of the reasons, as well as people say that you might just not be able to consume as much. So I live in the UK, and there's not as much sun as I need, so they want you to consume vitamin D, synthetic vitamin D, to help you to get the vitamin D that you won't be able to make because it's just not enough sunlight. Okay, so I'm not saying that vitamins are not useful, and supplementing is cannot be helpful maybe, but I'm saying that the consumption of synthetic vitamins is a huge scam, because again, if you lived a natural lifestyle like the people I see living up in Alaska, they're trying to live off grid, like myself, who wants to go and live in a more natural environment, I'm not going to be able to go to the pharmacy or to the shop to buy a package of vitamins every month for some exorbitant amount of money. It's just a scam, isn't it? You would have to get those things from the foods and the materials that are around you. Okay? And your body would take you naturally. If you know the stories of the parrots and the elephants in parts of Africa, they go to places and they'll eat part of the rock. They go to the salt lick to get certain vitamins that they need. The bodies naturally are aligned to know that I need to consume this. It's the same thing for us, but we don't give our bodies that chance. Okay, so if we're lacking in certain vitamins, okay, and minerals, then really we need to go and eat those foods that contain them, not go to a box or to a pill or to a fluid. Now there's a big push now to have more what we call plant-based food-based supplements, food-based vitamins. So instead of whole food-based vitamins, so instead of getting a synthetic version of vitamin C or something, they're going to have in that package A lot of these are liquid based, but they're going to have in that package a isolated form that's taken from a food. So that's a little bit better, I guess. Should be more absorbable. Okay, but the reality is that the vitamins and minerals we need to come from the foods or things we consume. Okay, and that there's a huge marketing effort to promote these things, to make it seem like these are things that we need. Society says we need those things, but reality, did our forefathers have those things? Okay, did our foremothers have those things? Did the natural people of the earth have those things? And who are we when we go to these places and displace them and tell them, you must do this, you must live this way? Okay, we're actually doing more harm than good to human society in the long run. All right, colonialism and imperialism, American imperialism, British imperialism, whoever, everyone's guilty of aspects of it, have gone into different societies and made this sort of mono-Western society around the world, where everyone basically has to do all the same things. If not, what you're doing is seen as abnormal. And much of these things that I'm talking about, I'm just scratching the surface, but this is like the baseline, some of the baseline things that do when we really think, who has told us that we must do these things? And why are they so ubiquitous across the world in human society? The animals don't live like this for a reason. What the dog does, wild dog in Africa, is not what the fox does, is not what the wolf does. Even though they may all come from the canine family, they're all very unique. And they thrive because of that uniqueness. Okay? So, let's see. We talked about the first one, which was veganism. Then we talked about soap. We talked about toothpaste, vitamins. That's number 4. So what would number 5 be? Social media. Okay. Now this is obviously a bit different than the others, because society doesn't really tell us that we need to use social media or have social media. But in a way it does. It forces us. It forces us. Especially now, because of the world we live in is so technology dependent. So across the world, no matter where you go, you can't escape it, isn't it? Even now, people like Elon Musk want to put, well, he's already done it with his satellite program, want to put the satellites in the sky to so that people can have the 5G networks no matter where you are in the world. You could be in the Arctic, I don't know, middle of the ocean, and be able to pick up this 5G network. And all for the name of money, as well as possibly, in my opinion, other nefarious purposes. Okay? So social media is this thing that, yes, it's a bit hypocritical because I'm here on YouTube talking about social media. It has pluses and minuses, doesn't it? Social media has allowed, the biggest aspect of social media, positive, is that it's allowed us to connect people across the world. But with that connection also comes sharing, and with that sharing, you're going to get the positive and the negative, as well as the influencing of others by people who have more power. Because with more power, more money, comes a bigger share of that influencing pie, influencing resources. So social media is my number 5 of things that society tells us we must do, but really probably does more harm than good. Again, if you were living in a natural, try to live as natural lifestyle as possible, then would social media need to be a part of that? I don't think it would. In fact, I think it would do more harm than good, because the societies, the societies that are living untouched that the world is slowly imposing on. They talk about that some of the native tribes across the world, there's not many remaining. Okay, there's not many remaining, and with their disappearing comes the disappearance of their culture and their languages. Social media wants to blanket all of that in one, because as those tribes, I saw a show that they did, and they went. It was, in my opinion, it was disgusting. You know, they went to the Maasai people from the UK, and they swapped homes. So they built a Western home in Kenya where the Maasai live. Not to say that the Maasai are, you know, isolated, because Kenya is a very well-connected place, but these people were traditional Maasai. That's the way they were living, and they built a traditional Western home, and they filmed a reality TV show of the Maasai people living in this home and how they would interact and feel, and then they put the Western people in the Maasai home. And I saw that as, like, obviously it was entertainment, but I saw that as like an assault, because they're taking Western culture and for entertainment purposes, dropping it to people that might not have any idea of what life like that is like. And Western culture has this way of appearing to be very nice, very comfortable, but with that comfort comes deficits. Okay, like the illnesses that come from the way that we eat in Western society, the way that we live, the sedentary lifestyle, compared to the way that, for example, traditional person is going to have to live. They're going to have to get their water from somewhere. They're going to have to raise their food from somewhere. They're going to have to, you know, walk for long periods of times, and so on and so on. Western lifestyle and Western trappings is just that. It's a trap. And so social media is part of the web. When you talk about the matrix, social media is an extension now of that matrix to society. Hence why they call it social media. Society and the medium in which society operates. And society, what we call society today, is run by a small group of people when you compare the amount of people that it influences. Right, so social media was my number 5. Please leave your comments. Let me know what you think about this video. Yes, it was a bit controversial, but I actually really believe those things. And as I keep saying, I juxtapose the position of society based on what real life is actually like. When I say real life, how would you survive if someone dropped you in your favorite location, whether that's somewhere colder like the Arctic, whether it was in Siberia, whether it was in the desert, in a forest, on the coast, in the sea, wherever you think across the world, wherever you think you are, you know, originate from, and you would like to acclimatize and attune yourself to, how would you survive? Just dependent on the resources around you. And you would quickly see that many of the things that society says that we need, we actually don't. And we would be better off without. And we need to teach our children that. This is Dr. David Roots. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, comment, share the video. Give thanks.